Hi guys and girls, welcome back to my Ask Golf Guru channel. Mark Crosswood here, and we're talking today about Rory McIlroy's comments. I want to know your thoughts. I've got some of your thoughts here on Rory McIlroy's comments about Greg Norman. So we're talking about this statement here. I've got my Twitter feed, which we will be looking at as well. Everyone's been posting their comments on what he said about Greg Norman, which we'll talk about. I want to hear your thoughts as well. Should be a fun episode. So let's start with the quote of what Rory said. He said, I think Greg Norman, needs to go. He needs to exit stage left. Look, he's made his mark, but now it's the right time to say, look, you've gotten this thing off the ground. So he's talking about LIV. And nobody's going to talk unless there is an adult in the room who can actually try to mend fences. So the big comments there really is he's calling Greg Norman not an adult. That's an aggressive play. And he's saying that they're not going to be able to have talks until someone like Greg isn't at the forefront, which is maybe a fair point. So I put this out to my Twitter audience to see what they have to say about this. Loads of responses as always, so let's get into some of them and see exactly what they are saying. So I said, what are your thoughts about Rory's comments about Greg Norman and grown-ups? And it was quite interesting. I haven't gone through all of them, but when I just kind of breeze through some of them here, it is getting to the point now where it feels a little bit like it's tipping, where Rory is so choppy and changey, and 1 minute he wants everyone to talk and then the next minute he doesn't, and then 1 minute he's having digs at Greg Norman, like when he won the Canadian, about overtaking his record, which could be seen as a non-grown up, and now all of a sudden Greg's no one who's got to grow up. And I mean, Rory's in bed obviously with the PGA Tour, which for obvious reasons, and it's Greg that won't talk when there's lots of reports that it's Jay that won't talk. Anyway, let's see what the audience is actually saying. So Perry says here, Norman has always been the one most people don't root for. It would make sense for him to step aside. So Perry is agreeing with Rory's comments there. Andy, Rory's getting too big for his boots again. And this then does start to become a bit of a theme. It was quite interesting because, you know, I love Rory. I think he's great. I think he's passionate. I think he talks with his heart on his sleeve, but sometimes maybe because it's such a political debate now and has been turned into a political debate, that I often wonder if golf pros are the best people to have political debates with. I know I don't trust my politics to any golf pro. Flip-flopping again, Golf 36. Maybe he should consider letting Ram do the talking. He's correct, Jimbo. So it's 50-50 at the minute. I would agree with some of the statements of what Rory said without necessarily agreeing with the wording. There's obviously some long-standing resentment between Greg and the PGA Tour. That dates well before Rory. Perhaps future negotiations should be easier if he had a different role. So again, devises, yes, but is he right? Yes. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people are really on Rory's side here. Greg Norman has acted like a clown. LIV, we're always going to move on from him. LIV still has massive issues as a product which can't solve with money and creating drama. Too many sideshows and distractions from everyone giving their opinion to the media with no impact. I don't know. Shipnook's podcast did sort of indicate Rory is the most bought and sold guy on the PGA Tour. I haven't seen that one, but Rory definitely has got financial ties, I would guess, with the PGA Tour. Not guess, kind of guessing. In my opinion, is that what I meant to say? I can't remember what I meant to say. So, you know, he's going to give a side that helps his investments, definitely. Not saying his statements aren't correct. He knows Greg better than you or I, and that's what he feels, and I get why he might feel that. Players on the PGA Tour now make more money because of LIV. Why negotiate? Stirring the pot is profitable. That's a good point. I mean, the PGA Tour is changing dramatically because of LIV. Rory was 100% correct in my opinion. So there you go. I just skirted through. I wasn't right. I mean, people are definitely still very much backing Rory here, and from this thread I can see. What are your thoughts? Post in the comments. I would love to hear on his thoughts. I mean, for me personally, it feels a little bit like Rory does just go a bit left and right. Obviously, he's been committed to the PGA Tour. I agree with that, but we're not talking. We don't need to negotiate. They should just go away and play, and then we should be talking. And now they should be talking, but with the right person. It's like, I mean, I remember I've said this in podcasts on the Hack It Out Golf podcast that I do with Lou and Greg Chalmers. We interviewed Rory years ago about the Olympics, and he said, it's on YouTube, this interview, you can go and find it. He said he just won't play in the Olympics. It makes no sense that golf's in the Olympics to him. He doesn't need it. It's not for him. And then obviously in the last Olympics, he obviously played. Obviously people have the right to change their mind. It's just, he can be very definite rather than maybe his wording could be a little bit more open, would help his brand a little bit. He's right. Norman doesn't have the humility grace to build bridges. So he's still here. Until he is gone, the situation will never improve. Could easily argue PGA Tour are as at, if not more, at a fault here too, Aid says, which I agree with as well. 100% behind Rory. Rory is right. I have no idea what he's talking about, lol. Okay, cutter. I think Rory should concentrate on playing and not taking. Greg's job is to talk. Rory's job is to play. From Andrew. He can talk all he wants. What if he said is true? Respectfully disagree from Duncan Dookie. So again, that one's splitting. So I would say it's more in Rory's favour here, isn't it? Exit Rory to the right. Zzz, yeah, so he wants Rory exited. Because I get it. People want Rory as a golfer. We're not investing Rory as a voice or a politician. I'm certainly not. That I'm not wondering what Rory thinks on certain issues. This one I wonder a little bit, but not that much, because I know where his eggs are. I know what basket they're in. So I kind of could guess. I'd be surprised if he said anything different. So yeah, I think for me personally, I think there's a bit of that coming through. Not as much as I first initial saw from when I just scooted the comments as I was making my coffee this morning. Petty. A bit hard to listen to Karen McIlroy talking. Meanwhile, his business with Tiger is cast with sin. Neil, I'm not sure all of the ins and outs of that. I hate the term Karen as well. I read that one out, but I wish I didn't now. But I understand the point he's making, just not very gracefully. Petty said, I wish Rory would take a back seat, although you could argue it helped his golf. Rory seems to be the type to want to say what is popular at the time. His opinion has no meaning for me. Normal Rory these days, sad face. So yeah, I mean, that's what I guess I was seeing. You're definitely starting to see people sway away from him being the voice, or what they were. It is what it is, but again, he is going to play where he plays for the next 3 years. At least he has to see both sides of the coin. Yes, there are problems with LIV, but the PGA Tour is edging closer to total monopoly when the PGA win gives 4.4 order of merit points. Yeah, the order of merit points is another subject we could talk about, and I would love to know. The order of merit points at the minute seem to be very, up in the air and a little bit crazy. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and maybe if you want me to do, and, ask your opinion here on the AskGolfGuru channel, post in the comments, and we'll do that one, because again, I don't really follow that discussion that closely, but what I'm seeing from trusted sources that I trust, who are saying there's just some crazy point allocations between DP World and PGA Tour and what have you. The PGA Tour is never going to have talks with Greg, so I don't know. How would you read that one from Vince? Where I agree with that, is that Greg's fault or the PGA Tour's fault? Greg was very open in the interviews he did that he tried to do this alongside the PGA Tour and they just didn't want to listen. There's no real winner unless other tours get to give out more than 100 order of merit points to the wins. It is a true ranking. It is not a true ranking system. So again, questioning the ranking system. Rory giving lessons on being a grown-up. Lol from Richard. I think we need more Ram and less Rory. Rory has added a divide, not helped close it. And I would agree with Jimmy there. That's the point. Ram does seem to be making some stronger points. But again, do we need these golfers? It's just, I don't know. Yeah. What do you think? Do we need these golfers' opinions that much? Obviously, it does concern them, so we need a certain amount of it. But I just think the argument and discussion is way more complex than often they want to go into. But I agree. I think we need more, or I think Rory has added to the divide. I honestly think Rory has actively added to divide, and I believe, and again, it's just my opinion, that he contributed to the divide and was encouraged to at the beginning to try and win. Now they can see it's not going to be a win. There's going to be a divide. It's now trying to work out what's the best way to settle that divide a little bit. Aspiring writer Rory, write what you know. Bit unattractive, both sides slagging each other off. Time to just shut up and get on with their own business. Roger, I kind of agree with that. Rory needs to focus on his golf. That's the PGA model. It could do with a spruce up, fairwayfinders.club. Yeah, 100%. I was in America recently, and I just put the telly on, and the PGA Tour was on, like more than I don't get it in my house at all. And if we do get it in the UK, it's in the evening where I'm busy anyway, even if I did wanted to watch it. So it was just on in the day. And a couple of times I was in my hotel room and I turned it on, and I was shocked at what I was seeing. Like, I couldn't believe the American coverage. It was just, I think I counted 15 putts in a row. So they showed 15 putts in a row before hitting a shot. So as someone jumping in on that broadcast, it had none of those shots really had any context of like how they got there. So I just thought, wow, anyone like me jumping in, this is like almost half an hour of watching with breaks in between those putts and a bit of talking. Are people even playing golf? And then I think it was in Houston. The event was in Houston. You had Tony Finau doing really well. I don't know if he went on and won it. I think he did. He was way ahead. But there was like 10 people watching. And I was under the impression from the propaganda that you get fed through online, and certainly PGA Tour fans, that, you know, it's exhibition LIV and what have you. And I'm not a supporter of LIV. I'm just not. I'm a supporter of golf. I'm not a hater of LIV. That doesn't mean I'm a supporter either. And it's the PGA Tour. I'm kind of, you know, I like the PGA Tour, but I wouldn't say I'm a supporter. But I was shocked with the product I was watching. It was so slow and rubbish and poor. Like, I mean, it was just ridiculous. I can't work out whether it is a ruse. Do you get Norman out of the way in order to smooth the path to coexistence, or will it just extinguish the driving force or weaken LIV's position? Simon, that's a good point, Simon. I would say it's more that the PGA Tour and Norman are probably at loggerheads, and it's a very hard discussion to have unless one ego pops, and you've probably got a lot of big egos going on at the top there. So in effect, you could argue Rory is right. In my honest opinion, people don't inherently like conflict. A prolonged conflict is going to turn viewers, not players, away. He should pocket his thoughts and work to improve the situation behind closed doors. Whispering Grizzly, yeah, I agree. I don't know why they need to keep using the public as they are. If you're confident in your product, just keep producing your product. Why do you need to be airing these issues? These are things that could be going on behind closed doors. I really do agree with that, to be fair. He's riding the wave of self-importance. The PGA Tour has set it up for him, making him their poster boy. Almost every PGA Tour, DP Tour social media post is of the man-child. Please don't realise he's got his own business interest in mind. He's not necessarily trying to better golf. I agree. Andy Rob Smith, totally agree with that. I think people do forget his interests. I like Rory, but it's starting to get a bit old, taking pot shots at Greg. Even if you don't like Greg and LIV, you would be lying if you don't acknowledge that the conditions of the top players in the PGA Tour has improved because of what they have done. I'm no way PGA Tour guy than LIV. Not really anti-LIV, but not pro-LIV. As much as I love Rory, I think it's time he stopped talk about it so much. Stop talking about it so much. Rory all day. So yeah, I think it's split, isn't it? And I think it's more split than it ever has been. And that's the trend I'm seeing. I think the more people realize that LIV is just, it's a place where people play golf. It's not going away. You look at the fields, like I say, when I was in America recently, the Houston, whatever it is open, the field of LIV, like the field was not great. The spectatorship was not great. And the coverage was awful. So I do think LIV very much has its place in world golf, and as it stays around longer, I think it will just become more normal. Again, I'm not supporting LIV. I hate what the regime are about. I'm not supporting what the regime are about. I just think the complex discussion behind the ideas of politics in golf, it's very hard to be on a soapbox if you watch any sport. And good luck to England in the World Cup, which starts at the end of this week. And I'm sure lots of the people who hate LIV won't be watching the World Cup as well that are on any of these threads. It's complicated, isn't it? So yeah, for me, I think I just want Rory to do what he does best, which is be one of the best golfers in the world and the best golfer in the world. I don't need him trying to persuade my politics or political sides between the tours, especially when he does seem, from my opinion, to flip and flop all over the place, which I'm starting to find a little bit embarrassing. What are your thoughts in the comments down below? As always, thanks for watching. This is the Ask Golf Guru channel. If you're not subscribed already, give this channel a subscribe. I've got videos going up weekly answering your questions and giving you a chance to have your say, like today. I love these ones. Love hearing what you've all got to say and your opinions, and we can all shape our own around it. Thank you for sharing as always. Can't wait to seeing you in the next video.